Youth justice in Western Australia is completely broken.
Treatment which is overly harsh, inhumane and on occasions unlawful.
Banksia Hill is the only dedicated youth detention centre in the entire state of Western Australia. But over recent years, it's gained a notorious reputation.
My grandson was locked away for 79 days. That's in isolation, 79 days. I mean, can you imagine being locked in your bedroom for 79 days?
The Banksia Hill Detention Centre. Your conversation will be recorded.
It's Gran.
We can't identify this woman for legal reasons. Her 15-year-old grandson has been in and out of Banksia Hill for the past 5 years for offences including robbery and home burglary, as well as assaulting youth custodial officers inside Banksia Hill.
He was in custody from when he was 10, but he was in care, Department of Child Protection, from when he was about 6. But when he got incarcerated with Banksia, I believe it was 10. And from then his life went downhill and his anger issues escalated. You know, this kid just didn't wake up one day and say, I'm going to go do this or I'm going to be a real mean person. This kid had a childhood, but it's been ripped from him, like it's been taken away.
In February, a judge labelled the boy's behaviour while in custody as vile, but also slammed the dehumanising conditions he was being kept in. Judge Hilton Quayle described the cell where he was kept as a fishbowl and his exercise yard as a cage, warning that when you treat a damaged child like an animal, they'll behave like an animal.
So I was thinking, oh, this poor kid, even this judge knows what's going on.
If you have to decide whether or not a child is sentenced to a period of detention and you know that that person is going to go to a facility where he or she is going to be treated harshly, inhumanely and possibly unlawfully, it weighs heavily on your mind.
Retired Judge Dennis Reynolds was the longest-serving president of the Children's Court of Western Australia from 2004 until 2018.
Where Banksia Hill is now has deteriorated to the point where it's simply not fit for purpose. The idea of a single detention centre for a state the size, the vast size of Western Australia is flawed.
Western Australia's prisons watchdog, Eamon Ryan, released a damning report on the situation at Banksia Hill following inspections last year.
They're spending less than 1 hour out of cell. So when you turn that on its head, that's 23 hours locked in a cell with no other human interaction. I was really concerned that we would finish up with a youth suicide, and those concerns haven't gone away.
In July, the situation at Banksia reached a crisis point. After trashing their cells, a group of 17 boys, a dozen of them Indigenous, were moved to a standalone unit inside WA's max security adult prison.
In the last 4 weeks, we finally got to the point where these young people were getting out of cells and assaulting staff. Now, at that point, I've got no choice but to make some decisions around how I will keep that facility safe.
I think it's an appalling decision and one that should be condemned. This is not a situation where children have been treated properly at Banksia and then completely out of the blue, unforeseeably, commit or engage in behaviour where they cause so much damage.
I didn't make this decision lightly, but I think it's the right decision.
Down here is this room where my son stays when he's not in Banksia. He's scared. I can tell he's scared. He's only 14. Any kid would be scared to be in an adult's prison.
This woman's 14-year-old son is among those who've been moved to the juvenile unit at Casuarina for bad behaviour.
I went to Banksia for a visit, and when I got to the visit, they told me that my son was no longer at Banksia, that he's been moved to Casuarina prison. Without telling me, without a phone call.
Over the weekend, a number of the juvenile inmates at Casuarina Prison damaged their new cells before climbing into the roof space. They were later brought under control by the prison system's riot squad.
Moving children to a more secure adult prison is not going to stop them from destroying their cells. What will stop kids from engaging in destructive behaviour and acting out in desperation, as these children have, is being treated in an inhumane, trauma-informed, youth-centric and an age-appropriate manner.
Last year, lawyer Dana LEVITT started building a class action against Banksia Hill.
The key allegation made in the class action is that Banksia Hill is fundamentally not fit for purpose, and as such has a detrimental impact on every single child that enters it.
21-year-old NIKKEA Graham is one of the former Banksia Hill detainees who has given statements to the class action. He spent time at the centre's ISU as a teenager.
They just come and feed you, they bring you out to that bird cage thing, but it's got a tennis ball, a flat basketball and a phone.
NIKKEA's parents died when he was a teenager.
Every time I come to my court time, I just walk out and smash the phone. I just go back to my cell and cry all the time, every single time. No one answered, I just go and cry in my cell. Nothing else to do. When you put a dog in a cage and grow it up like that there, you let it out, I think it's vicious. Same with a person, you leave them in the cell, or leave them locked up for a certain amount of time, it's gonna click.
The WA government says the teenagers are only being kept at Casuarina temporarily while plans for a $25 million upgrade of Banksia Hill are being developed.
My view is that what we should have is a regionalised system where we have children, and particularly Aboriginal children, that we leave them on country, get them to know themselves, get a sense of their own identity, get a knowledge of their own culture, and then have a good sense of self-worth, and in turn be good members of the community and render the community safer.
In May, the WA government announced new funding for an on-country facility in the state's far north Kimberley region.
We're currently working with local traditional owners on a site so that it is an opportunity for rehabilitation on country rather than being sent to Banksia Hill.
For now, the families of young people locked up hope their kids will one day stay out of a system that they feel helpless to fix.
The damage that they do to these places is what they're showing, what they're feeling inside. They're damaged, they're broken, and so is the system.
I'm scared that he might, keep self-harming himself, and then I get that phone call. That just every mother's worst nightmare. And yeah, that's my biggest fear. It's getting that phone call.